Hello, this is week 2 wrap-up, review of chapter 2, what we learned last week. Chapter 2 is risks and its impact. So we learned what risk was, the probability of an attack happen. What was the value of anything that could have been stolen? We had to make sure what that was. We also looked at the threats, vulnerabilities, the difference between the two. We looked at, I said threats, vulnerabilities, the difference, probability of one happening. We looked at accessing the control threats, password cracking, heightened access, password, someone just trying to get into your password. Heightened access, someone gets in at a low level and moves up through that level, through the system. And one of the most common is social engineering. People just love to talk. So you get on the good side of someone, you start talking, they'll give you everything you need to know. So that's a big problem. Some vulnerabilities that we need to talk about. Hashing, securing the passwords, making sure that they're in the right area, making sure that the password hash is protected, that the databases where they are is protected. These are just some of the areas that we wanted to look at. Then how do we measure risk? We had two types. We can measure it quantitatively or qualitatively. Quantitatively gave us a dollar amount. If we lose this data, it's worth X amount of money to our company. Versus qualitative is, hey, this is a high, low, or medium risk. So that's what we had to look at. What's the cost to replace the data if it got stolen by a competitor, or cost to attain it? Or what's the just general impact to our business model? You know, what would customers think if we started losing, if we were hacked and we didn't do anything to protect them? So these are some of the areas we looked at. Where are they needed? Well, we can have it, we talked about having a firewall for remote accesses to protect our data from anyone outside sources. Also within the network, we can have different LAN set up so that someone who's on in the accounting department can only see accounting stuff. They can't go to sales. So it allows us to have that information. We can have a user domain. We have to protect their workstation. We have to protect the LAN. We have to connect the WAN. We got to also protect the remote users from getting in and what happens there. So there's a couple different areas that we have to look at. The virtual networks. We have one complete network, but we can virtually split it up where we're not putting that information hardwired, but we allow different departments to see different information. Remote users is highly recommended using a VPN. This helps protect that data from when they get in, they have to punch through that firewall. Firewall helps keep us safe. We should all have firewalls on our network. It allows us to have information what's going on. But basically, risk assessment is what's the possibility of someone breaking in through threats, vulnerabilities, and how do we prioritize how much we want to stop? We could spend $1 million to prevent break-ins, but if our data is only worth $250,000, it's not worth the efforts. So we have to balance what does it cost versus what is it actual worth. And that's one of the things the risk assessment has to look at. It's not just we got to make our data safe. We also have to look at what's the cost of it. Is it worth it? So that's what we covered in chapter 2. So have a wonderful week. Remember, what made you smile?